Jedi, yeah, crown me king, tell them heathens.
Shalom, and welcome to another edition here on the Genesis 49ers page, where we say no to vague interpretations and we give thorough breakdowns. Genesis 49ers, we back. We're never moving backwards. Here to put Israel on the atlas. Y'all know the slogan. We say no to vague interpretations and we give thorough breakdowns. Now I'm back with a video dealing with these two trolls that have been going through Facebook spreading heresy and false doctrines. These people go by the name of Cranial and Ayash. And this whole presentation is refuting their claim, which is not a new claim. It's a rather old claim being brought back to life and resurging through the community. Rabbi Asher on YouTube made the same claim 7 or 8 years ago, back in 2010, when he was riding on the coattail of the Israelites very hard. Vocab made the same claim. James White is making the claim that the original Israelites or Jews were white, right? And they used old paintings from like Duro. I'm using it in my presentation as well, because you have black images as well that's supposed to represent Moses and represent Joshua and the Exodus that we'll get into later on during this presentation. But you have white images there as well. They'll run to the white images and say, this is how they look. They'll run to white images that we find in Egypt and say, this is how the Asiatics look. And that's basically their whole foundation for this doctrine. That's the crux of their doctrine right there. Is basically, oh, look at these images. These are white guys with blue eyes. So we're going to touch on these different topics. We're going to touch on what they said, touch on the heresy that's being pushed to the community. Because basically they're saying all of the black people, Cranial, and you are on video, recorded, candid cam, saying that 75% of black people in America are Canaanites. That's their doctrine. They're teaching that the Negro in America, throughout the Americas, are Canaanites, and they fulfill Genesis 9. They're bringing back that old Roman doctrine, you know, that the blacks are cursed, blase, blase. We know this doctrine. We're not new to this. We're true to this. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation of refuting Cranial and Ayash's claims. Claims made by the opposition. This presentation will thoroughly refute each claim listed here. One of their claims, the ancient Israelites are not black. Now, black is arbitrary. It's ambiguous. It doesn't mean African. It doesn't mean big nose, big cheeks. Wide cheekbones, big lips. It doesn't mean that, of course, hair. It's very ambiguous. You have East Indians that are black that don't have any of those facial features. They have when it comes to cranial facial features, they have more of a Caucasian cast. East Africans have a Caucasian cast. Some of the Watuskis, the Fulani, they have Caucasian cast. So to try to equate black with African is very erroneous, because we can clearly see there's a lot of people with darker hues that will be considered black that don't have those features. So we're going to debunk the ancient Israelites are not black. We're going to debunk the claim that the West Africans are Canaanites. We're going to debunk that thoroughly. Here's the thing. The problem with using geopolitical terms to try to justify your doctrine, because people migrate. A landmass does not give birth. A landmass does not have a pedigree. So anyone can migrate into a land. Anybody can flee from a land. So just to try to designate West Africa to Canaanites is very erroneous, and it's unscholarly, right? Because you had many of the sons of Noah going throughout the earth, right? Africa did not just contain Ham. We got to throw that doctrine in the garbage as well. You had Shemites there. The Midianites were in Africa. Are you going to say that they were Ham? No, that's the children of Keturah, Abraham's seed. That's Shem. The Afri people, that's Shem. Those are the North Africans, right? These are Shemites, ancient Shemites in Africa, right? So we're going to debunk that claim that the West Africans are Canaanites. The Bible does not describe Israel as being black. That's another claim that they're making, that all of the color scriptures are in error and they're misunderstood. And we will touch on that in detail. The original Shemites were not black. We're also going to touch on that as well. Now, they say black with the preconceived notion of, oh, they got to look quote unquote African. I'm a so-called black person and I don't look African. And I have Mexican pedigree. My father, my grandfather, and so on and so forth to the patrilineal line, they are quote unquote Mexicans. So when we say black, we're not talking about a Negroid phenotype or a caste. Understand that. That's why I said black is very ambiguous. But since you grew up in this corrupt education system and limited education system at that, your mind is trained to think that even though majority of quote unquote Negro blacks don't look like the stereotypical African image that you have in your head. Dark Asiatics. Dark Asiatics. This is the procession of the Asiatics in Beni Hassan, tomb of Khnum-Hotep. Now, first of all, these are not Israelites. If someone tells you, show me an image of an Israelite in ancient Egypt, they know that they're being disingenuous because there is no image in Egypt that I know of that is labeled Hebrew Israelite or Israelites, for that matter, that says these are the Israelites. There's no inscription like that. But we do have is the procession of the Asiatics, or the people from the East, right? And Benai in this tomb, you can see their imagery and how they depict it. Now, if they were right that the ancient Asiatics, or the Amo people, right, were depicted as white people, why don't we see that here? They're depicted as brown people, dark brownish people right here, especially two in the front leading it when you see the whole image, leading the Asiatics into this area right here. They have dark hues. They don't look like Caucasians, and they have afros, coarse, thick, nappy looking afros. Where did you get that they're white with blue eyes from? I don't get that from this image. You have what vocab say? You have far-reaching implications. That's what I'm saying, far-reaching implications. So, moving on. This is Kona Lawa, right? Does he resemble the ancient depiction of Asiatics on the wall? Does he resemble the ancient Asiatics that we find on the walls in the tomb Khnum-Hotep? Because he's claiming that he looks like the Asiatics. But people like me, people like other brothers that may look black or be classified as black do not represent these people as far as the imagery. But you look nothing. I'm just going to ask the audience: does he look or resemble these people on the wall? I want you guys to answer that. Put your answers in the comment board below, please. Now, this is the other brother which is a proponent of this doctrine that 75% of the African Americans are Canaanites, and they went to slavery. The slave trade was a result of the curse of Canaan. He's in concert with Konai when it comes to this doctrine. Now, same thing applies to him. Does he resemble the ancient depiction of Asiatics on the wall? Ayash is to the left, the ancient Asiatics are to the right. And this is not to bash these brothers, because I still believe they're Israelites. It's just to show the error in the way they think and the flaws and the holes in their doctrine. So you got Ayash to the left, and you have the ancient Asiatics to the right, the depiction of ancient Asiatics. Does he look like him? Does he resemble these people on the wall at all? He doesn't have the hair texture. He doesn't have the hue in his skin. He's got 2 strikes already. Moving on. He damn sure ain't got an afro. So that's just throw that out there. Guess what? I have the phenotype that resembles the ancient Asiatics. I have the same hue of skin. I can grow that same type of afro. It's an old picture of me too. I look good, don't I? But anyway, the left to right, see the comparison. I have the hue. These people look more like me than they do Ayash or Kwana. Any brother that say they don't, you're being disingenuous. And you just want to push this heresy on our people, claiming that African Americans have to be Canaanites. But I look more like these ancient Asiatics than you do. That's facts. Put your answers in the comment board. That's all I ask for the people. So maybe these brothers will wake up after seeing the people and the polity actually respond, right? And I mean the laity actually respond. Now, let's deal with the lies of Ephraim, because I believe both these brothers are from the 10 tribes. They might not believe that. They probably got a new doctrine where they teaching that they're Judah, they're Benjamin, they're Levi. Fine, cool. But the scriptures talk about the lies of Ephraim, right? The northern kingdom stated, they're not all Ephraim. Matter of fact, I come from the 10 tribes. I'm claiming lineage from Issachar. But this is to address the wickedness of Ephraim. Those brothers and certain brothers like Baasha was a king of Issachar. He was wicked. He was a king that ruled the northern kingdom from the tribe of Issachar. He was wicked. Jeroboam was wicked. His son was wicked. So Ahab, he was from the northern kingdom. He was wicked as hell. He married that damn Zidonian and allowed her to rule through him. So don't take offense to this if you're from the northern kingdom. This is for those brothers that are teaching heresy and lies. The lies of Ephraim. Northern kingdom stated to join heathens and have strange children, pure Hosea. And the day of our king, the princes have made him sick with bottles of wine. He stretched out his hand with scorners. So this scripture is telling us that the Ephraimites, the 10 tribes, would stretch out his hand with scorners. I mean, he would join with the scorners and stretch out his hand to do what? Mock. Mock who? Who are they against? The southern kingdom. So that's what you're doing. You're stretching out your hand with the likes of Vocab Malone, James White, Rabbi Asher, just to name a few. And those Roman converts from the Talmudic days. Because some of those sages in the Talmud were actually Roman converts. That's why they have that racist colorist dialogue found within their writings. Because they're not actual Jews. They're converts that were actually Edomites or Romans that were brought into the fold. So you have stretched out your hands with scorners. You're teaching the same thing. You're teaching that Canaanite curse, and that's why we went to slavery. That's what they taught. You have stretched out your hands with scorners, right? People that have scorned us, mocked us. You have stretched out your hands when you say that the original Jews and Israelites were white. That's the propaganda they've been pushing for years. And using that same tactic of that whitewash imagery to try to prove your point. You're doing the same thing the scorners do. You have joined them. You have become just like them. They have dealt treacherously against the Lord, for they have begotten strange children. Now shall a month devour them with their portions, because they had to go into captivity and be defeated by the Assyrians. And this is the scripture I use to prove that when Negro only lights, because I have video after video on Genesis 49ers attacking and defending the Israelites from Negro only lights. And tell them, look, the scriptures do say they were going to have strange children that didn't particularly look like the norm, right? Not saying that we're homogenous. We never really were homogenous. But what we're talking about is explaining the Amerindian groups that we find here in America. That's what this scripture is bringing out, that they will begotten strange children, that Israel would not all be homogenous. We're heterogeneous. We have different looks, different phenotypes, but we come from the same stock. which I have explained in videos before. You have incomplete penetrance, genetic drifting, that explains that you can have the same Y, you can have the same patrilineal line, but look completely different. Incomplete dominance. You got to learn these terms from genetics and genealogy so you can understand that a child may not look like its parents. That's called chimerism. When the child can have a completely different genetic code from both their parents. So it's completely logical and possible. That's why when people talk about Jacob and Esau, how are they twins and they look different? It's called incomplete penetrance. The people that deal with botany know this, because you can have two plants that have strong genes and it produce a new plant that don't look anything like the two parent plants, the parent stock. It's the same thing with humans. It's the same thing with animals. But since you're uneducated and unlearned, you don't know anything about genetics. So it always leads to preconceived notions and assumptions. And the scriptures call it evil surmising in Timothy's. Your evil surmise means to say something without any facts or evidence. And that's what these brothers are doing. So I use this to go against the Negro only lights. Now I got to use it against y'all. I got to use it in reverse. This is called punching in reverse. If any battle rap fans are out there. Let's move on. So Hosea, so the point with this bring Hosea prove that these Ephraimites, these 10 tribers, they sided with the enemy. And that's what you brothers are doing. You got that same spirit. You're teaching the vocab alone doctrine, that Mormon doctrine, that all the Canaanites were cursed, and that's why you went to slavery, and that's how you got your black skin. That is just wicked. That is very evil. It's just evil, and it's surmising, and it's time to get rid of this doctrine again. You keep coming back like zombies, and I got to come on Genesis 49 and provide that headshot. Now, this is scholarship right here. This is from ancient.eu, the Siege of Lachish from the British Museum. Now, these brothers saying the Israelites were not black, they're not Negro or whatever. Well, this is from the 8th century, right? 8th century BC, right? Or for these brothers want to get super duper technical. What is this, 2700 BP before present, for you brothers that are keeping up with how they track time. Anyway, prisoners playing lyres, three musicians, possibly Judean prisoners, are marched under escort through mountainous country. Now we can see how these Judean prisoners were depicted. They have tightly coursed beards. As you can see, look at their beards. Tightly coursed. Look at their hair. It's faded, but you can see like there's little squares. Tightly coursed hair. That signifies what? Naps, man. Curly hair. But nah, we just making this up. They don't look like they're Caucasian. These are Judean prisoners and musicians. It's going to go into the scripture that they believe that is the scripture is referring to. It says their dress indicates that they came from somewhere to the west of Assyria, possibly Phoenicia. The scenes recall the biblical lament. Why do they say possibly Phoenicia? Because they know the Phoenicians are that area. Because Phoenicia is not, that's a very ambiguous term either. As well, I mean. That's a very ambiguous term either. I mean, as well, because you had Asher and Zebulun in those areas as well. You didn't just have Canaanites or Phoenician, not Phoenicians, but Zidonians living in that land. Anybody trying to push that rhetoric, you know you're lying. Because even Haram, his mother was what? I believe Naphtali or Dan, right? And even, we're going to get into it later, Haram came from an Israelite. His father's stock was of Israelite patrilineage. So it says the scene recalls the biblical lament, Psalms 137, referring to a later period. They that carried us away captives required us a song. Assyrian about 700 to 692 BCE, from room, what is that? The X came before the L. XLV2, and I believe I gotta polish myself up on this. If it comes before the L, L is 50. So is that 47 or 37? I might be wrong by that. You can correct me in the comments. The Southwest Palace, Nineveh, modern day Mosul, Governorate, Iraq, Mesopotamia, the British Museum, London. Right? So this is scholarship. Not just, this is what brothers do on Facebook. They copy and paste the Google image and throw it on there. They throw like 7,000 on there, and then they tell you, oh, this is my proof. I was like, what's the date on it? We don't know the date. We don't know what it is we're looking at. We don't know the inscription. You brothers don't provide that, so it's anybody guess what the hell we're looking at. Let's continue to move on. And I like these images as well, because now we're not just dealing with a general group of people like the Asiatics, like some say. We're dealing with a specific group of people, the Judeans, when we're looking at the siege of Lachish and the British Museum. So we know what we're looking at. We just removed all ambiguous thought and argument from the discussion. So Assyrian soldiers parading the prisoners of war. And think about what I said earlier about the Phoenician thing. Oh, possibly Phoenicians. Why? Because they look Negroid. They look black. So that's why they said that. Because wait a minute, these Judeans look like black people. Let's keep going. On the right, and not shown here, most likely these figures represent the heads of the rebellion. All of them are barefoot and wear nothing on their head, which is a sign of humiliation. All of them seem to ask for mercy. One prostrates, two kneels, and the other three stand before the king. They were executed later on, in all likelihood, from Nineveh, modern day Mosul, Governorate, Iraq, room 36. I got that one. It's pretty simple. Oh, the Southwest Palace, panels 11 and 13, the British Museum. And you can see these people from the rebellion, these Judeans, have tightly coursed hair. And that's another thing. They say woolly hair doesn't mean you have nappy. This is what these brothers have. This is what these Jews have. What you would call nappy or coarse hair. Look at that beard. It's the same thing. This is the phenotype being depicted in these depictions. There's no way around this. But these are carvings. Now, some people will say, oh, well, the Assyrians like to draw their captives the way they look. So are you admitting that the Assyrians are Negroid now? Because if you're admitting the Assyrians are Negroid, you're admitting that the ancient Shemites are Negroid. This is what I'm talking about. When you have all these holes in your doctrine and you're lying and you're pushing heresy, these are the type of holes and traps you will fall into. Like the scripture says, if any man dig a ditch, he shall fall thereinto. So let's just deal scholastically and be genuine with our presentations. And you brothers on Facebook, stop posting images without explaining what the hell the viewer is looking at, and give sources. Cite your sources. We need citations, not you explaining the image. Give us the citation. We need to know where it's from, what wall, what period, what the inscription indicates. Again, the siege of Lachish in the British Museum. So just for any naysayers out there that say, no, that could be depicting anything. How do you know it's the siege of Lachish? This is why. There's an inscription. There's an inscription on the wall explaining what you're looking at. This is one of the two cuneiform inscriptions which were carved on one of the reliefs. These four horizontal lines read, Sennacherib, the mighty king of the country of Syria, sitting on a throne of judgment before or at the entrance of the city of Lachish. I give permission for its slaughter from Nineveh. Right? Still room 36 of the Southwest Palace, panels 11 through 13. The British Museum in London. This is how we know where this took place. and when it took place, because it's Sennacherib being mentioned in the inscriptions. And it also gives validity to the existence of Sennacherib in the biblical story and the biblical account. And that's where the transliteration came from, the discoveries among the ruins of Nineveh and Babylon by Sir Henry Layard, 1853. Let's continue. Again, y'all know the slogan. Just gotta bring this back up. We say no to vague interpretations and we give thorough breakdown. That's for you Google scholars out there and just copy and paste images all day. And for anybody else that's doubting, this inscription is pointing out Lachish. Where's Lachish? Lachish, as you can see on the map, is within the southern kingdom. So those images of those capitals were Judeans, right? We can see it right there. Look at the map to the left. Since you guys want to learn visually and don't want to read, Lachish is right there in Judea, south of Bethlehem and south of Jerusalem. So don't feed us this crap that, oh, the original. No. We've seen from the 8th century BCE that the Jews were depicted as having Negroid phenotypes. Again, let's ask again. Does he resemble the imagery? Does Cranial resemble the imagery of Moses and the Israelites on the walls of the synagogue of Duros? The black imagery, not the whitewashed imagery. No, he does not. I know I said I wanted to save it for the comments. You can give your input, but I just had to say it because it's just for someone to be that pompous, and he knows damn well he doesn't look like these people. You look Neanderthalish. That's what he looks like. Let's get right into the nitty gritty. Remember, I told you I was going to tackle these claims that they made. One of them is the ancient Shemites were not black. But according to the Perkei de Eleazar, which is of the Mishnah, right? The rabbinical literature, the ancient Shemites were said to be black. Let me say that again. The ancient Shemites were said to be black. This is in the rabbinical literature. It says, he especially blessed Shem and his sons, making them dark and comely. And he gave them the habitable earth. The habitable earth. So, what's this talking about? They weren't black. Where is this coming from? I could end the presentation here. This is in rabbinical literature. And if you want all these references from the rabbinical literature, you can go to Sefaria.org, I believe. Sefaria.org. I think it's S-E-F-A-R-I-A. Sefaria.org. Shem's descendants described as being black. The Persian historian Tariq el-Tabari. Born to Noah were Shem, whose descendants' colors are a black complexion with a light brownish undertone and a dark blackish brown. The Persian historian Tariq el-Tabari is telling you that these Shemites, these ancient Shemites, were said to be black. Ham, whose descendants' colors are true black and being very, very dark, and few are black complexion with a light brownish undertone. And Japhet, whose descendants are very fair skinned and olive skinned. Now, a lot of people take this fair skin to mean these are white people. No, fair skin just means beautiful. And even in the first century document in the Mishnah, it says that they were looking for Jews that were not too black and not too light, but in between that brownish color. That's why it's right there, olive skin. So that's not talking about, oh, someone that's white, as a lot of people try to purport. It doesn't say white, it says fair skin. Fair skin just means beautiful. So anyway, if you go up to back to the top where it says utma, blackish brown, that's the word in Arab, in the Arabian language, for Adam. So the word Adam meant blackish brown as well. That's for another day though. Noah were Shem, born to Noah were Shem, whose descendants' colors are black complexion, are a black complexion. So we can see that Shem was being described as being black. Let's go on. Let's move on. The Talmudic source identifies the Jews as black. Rabbi Samuel from the Talmud. It says, in the beginning of the reign of Ahasuerus, they wrote slanders on the inhabitants of Judea and Jerusalem. Samuel said Ahasuerus signifies black, i.e., in his time, the faces of the Jews were black as the bottoms of the pots. So they were saying, Rabbi Samuel was saying that these Jews were black. Now watch, they try to do push all type of rhetoric and say, no, they're not black. That means they had the ash on their head, brother. They just was sprinkling ash on themselves. This is the type of tactics they use. So we had a Talmudic source, a Mishnaic source, and we had the Persian historian, his source, all saying that these people were black. Color scriptures. These brothers say the color scriptures are null and void. But we're going to deal with what I call advanced color scriptures. Does the scriptures indicate color? 1 Chronicles 4:5 says, and Ashur, the father of Tekoa, had 2 wives, Halah and Narah. Now what does Ashur or Ashkur mean? In Strong's H806, it signifies black or blackness. There's a color scripture right there. They're not privy to these scriptures because they don't do too much study. So who was Ashur? He's from the line of Judah, and he was called black. Let's keep it going. A son of Moses, Phinehas, means mouth of brass, or from an old Egyptian loan word meaning dark skin or denoting dark skin, and that's from the Easton's Bible Dictionary. Should we keep it going? Cushi applies to the Jews. Several scriptures depict the ancient Israelites having black skin. The Shiggaion, or the Psalm of David, which he sang unto the Lord concerning the words of Cush, the Benjamite. Psalms chapter 7, verse 1. Are you going to say Cush doesn't mean black now? Strong's H3568, Cush means black. Are you going to say Cushi doesn't mean black now, or black skin, or my blackness? It's applied to the Israelites. Cushi applies to the Jews again. The word of the Lord which came unto Zephaniah the son of Cushi. Zephaniah is the son of Cushi. The prophet Zephaniah comes from a man named Cushi. And again, Cush, Strong's H3568 means black. What are you talking about? There's no scripture, no color scriptures in the Bible. The only one they accept is the one in Songs of Solomon, and we know that's basically a metaphor for the whole nation of Israel and the 2 kingdoms. How white were the Israelites? Facial reconstruction may be surprising. Israeli anthropologists claim the subjects of the kingdom of Judea look more like black Africans. Ofri Yani and Haaretz correspondent, November 14, 2008, when this was published on their website. Now, when you read the article, they try to still push that regime that, these people did look like the modern Jewish people. But the interesting thing, if people read over, there's a whole paragraph where they talk about what you see right here in the header. The kingdom of Judea look more like black Africans. So even they know the truth, man. Even they know. I mean, if you look at Lachish, we brought up Lachish, we see how they depict it. We're digging up skulls. Like the tomb of Lachish, I believe tomb 127, there's nothing but Negroid skulls with wormian bones in it. But you're going to ignore that because you're a colorist. That's all it is. You're colorist, and you feel like you've been picked on by the Negro-onlyites, and now you're trying to, stick it to them. Stick it to the man, as they say. Let's keep it going. Negroid races in ancient Asia. The source is W.E.B. Du Bois, The Negro, page 11. The primitive Negroid race of man developed in Asia, wandered eastward as well as westward. They entered on the one hand Burma and the South Sea Islands, and on the other hand they came through Mesopotamia and gave curly hair and a Negroid type to the Jew. Let me say that again. Gave curly hair and a Negroid type to the Jew. We've seen this in the Lachish release. We have evidence. The Syrian, who are the Syrians? The Assyrians come from who? Aram, which is a Shemite. And the Assyrian, who the Assyrians come from, Assyrians, the Ashurites, which are also Shemitic people. Now, quick history. The Syrians, the only reason they're named Syrians is because the Greeks, I believe, could not pronounce the AS or the S, so they just named that area Syrians. After the Assyrian, they couldn't pronounce Assyrian. But when we see Syria and the ancient Syrian, those are the Aramaeans. It says ancient statues of Indian divinities show the Negro type with black face and close curled hair. In early Babylonian culture was Negroid. In Arabia, the Negroes may have divided, and one stream perhaps wandered into Europe by the way of Syria. Traces of these Negroes are manifest not only in skeletons. They're finding skeletons in these areas of Negroid people, but in the brunette type of all South Europe. And that's even backed up by genetic findings when they're saying that the Kosoan people relate to a lot of the South Europeans, more so than they do Sub-Saharan Africans or other African groups. It says but that's for another day. It says the other branch proceeded to Egypt and tropical Africa. Another, but perhaps less probable theory is that the ancient Negroes may have entered Africa from Europe, since the most ancient schools of Algeria are Negroid. But I want to just touch on something. If a stream of Arabian Negroes came from Arabia into Africa, that would mean you have Shemites in Africa, because these Arabians are Shemitic. These Syrians are Shemitic. These East Indians, the Elamites, they're Shemitic. You can't judge race by a phenotype alone, because all of these score types exist in each race. Let's keep going. You want to talk Mongoloid score types? The Khoisan people have Mongoloid features. They have Mongoloid phenotypes, and they're South Africans. This is why, if you're going with this phenotype theory, black means Canaanite, Negro means Canaanite, you cut your own self, and you're bleeding out, and you need immediate medical attention. Let's keep going. This is why we say no to vague interpretations and give thorough breakdowns. Negro Syrians, the source of Strabo, Geography, Book 16, Book 16, Chapter 1, Paragraph 2. It says the population of the one and other Cappadoce, Tariki, Cappadoce Pontike, even nowadays are often called Lucio-Syri or Syrian white, by opposition apparently to other Syrians known as Melano-Syri or Black Syrians, who can be only the Syrians established across Taurus. And when I say Taurus, I give to this name his greater extension. I prolong the chain unto Amanus, Antioch. Now, so you had black Syrians and you had white Syrians. Let's continue on. Now, because these people say, oh, these people are all white, but we just clarified you had black and white Syrians. We're going to get into it. It says the cranial facial oldest bones of Israel are clearly Negroid, right? The source is the questionable contribution of the Neolithic and Bronze Age to the European craniofacial formed by C.L. Bray. It is further a surprise that the Epipaleolithic Natufian of Israel, from whom the Neolithic rim was assumed to arise, has a clear link to Sub-Saharan Africa. These people you calling ham, their bones, these skeletons reflect them. These West Africans you keep calling him, the Sub-Saharan Africans, their bones were found in ancient Israel in the Epipaleolithic times, before the Stone Age. This is how old this is, right? The oldest representation of these people are Negroids. So how are you going to say Shem is not Negro or black. This is called a refutation, by the way. This is how you refute these people. The cranial features clearly Negroid. The Introduction to African Civilization by John G. Jackson. It says traces of the early men were found as a result of the excavation near Jerusalem in 1928 and later in the caves at Mount Carmel. Due to the excavators assigned to them the name Natufians, and they remain to this day the greatest riddle in archaeology. Even Sir Arthur Keith agrees that they are clearly Negroid, Prognathians with wide faces, flat noses, and long, large heads. Sir Arthur goes on to say that these early Palestinian blacks may have been the ancestors of the Semites and the Arabs of biblical times. So what you going to say now? What's going to be your excuse? Moving on. More cranial data. The source is David Yusukin, The Conquest of Lachish by Sennacherib, Tel Aviv. The Institute of Archaeology, Tel Aviv, 1982, page 56 and 57. This is from the Institute of Archaeology in Tel Aviv. And in modern Israel. Let's say what they say. Let's read what they said. The excavation uncovered a mass of human bones, which was estimated to form the remains of 1,500 individuals. Remains of 695 skulls were brought to London by the British expedition. Curiously, the crania indicate a close resemblance to the population of Egypt at this time. The relationship found suggests that the population of the town in 700 BC was entirely or almost entirely of Egyptian origin. They show further that the population of Lachish was probably derived from Upper Egypt. Exodus 11 and 7. They look very similar to Egyptians. Now, are you going to say the ancient Shemites were white? They were all white? And I believe this is around Taharka's time. I might be wrong. You can correct me. This is when the Nubians or the Cushites or the quote-unquote Ethiopians were ruling, right? So if they look like these people, these Upper Egyptians, then that puts a hole in your theory. This whole presentation is just chopping your fable, man. Let's keep going. Exodus 11 and 7, D.L. Rizdun and Biometrica. And we know at Exodus 11:7 that it basically compares the people of Israel and the Egyptians. It says the Lachish cranial series has its closest resemblance to the 4th dynasty series of the Deshashir and Medum in Lower Egypt, and the 18th dynasty samples from Thebes and Abydos in Upper Egypt. Cranial samples from other Palestinian sites, Gezer and Megiddo, agree with the Lachish cranium. Thus, we have a clear African racial continuum in the Hebrews and Egyptians. So, how are the ancient Shemites not considered black, and how are the ancient Jews not considered black? If the cranial subjects are reflecting an African racial continuum. Let's read the second part. The phrase black and beautiful originates from a Hebrew document, Songs of Psalms 1:5, where an Israelite woman from Shunem exclaims her son enhanced Ebon beauty to some color and class-struck dusky members of the royal household who kept themselves behind palace walls out of sunlight. For the Shulamite to have tanned black, she must have already been very brown. Drop the damn mic on that, man. You brothers sit here and push all of this racist rhetoric, but we have source after source after source after source that collaborate to paint a completely different narrative that's diametrically opposed to yours. Now, the Semitic Aramaeans, remember we brought up the black and white Syrians, right? This is from Henry George Tompkins' remarks on Mr. Flinders Petrie's collection of ethnographic types from the monuments of Egypt. The Journal of Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland, Volume 18. Sayce has identified the Hittites with the white Syrians. He said the Hittites are the white Syrians. Pay attention now. of Strabo as contrasted with the Black Syrians or Semitic Arameans east of Amanus. He said the Black Syrians are the Semitic Arameans and the White Syrians are the Hittites, which makes sense because the seed of Esau interbreeded with the Hittites. We say no to vague interpretations and give thorough breakdowns. Hey, what the fools say, Garfield? Dagger. Dagger. The Ruddy translation is outdated. More modern translations use more ancient strips to clarify the translations. The Hebrew script is 9th century. Learn about homographs, each of 2 or more words spelled the same but not necessarily pronounced the same and having different meanings and origins. And that's what Admoni, right? Admoni in the Hebrew language, it sounds similar, but I believe they have two different meanings. One can mean red, one can mean earth-like complexion. And that's why we have these modern translations coming to this conclusion here that you see on the screen. It says, so Jesse sent for him. He was dark and handsome. Who is he talking about? David. It says he was dark and handsome. It doesn't say ruddy, white and ruddy, or ruddy. With beautiful eyes. And the Lord said, this is the one, anoint him. That's from 1 Samuel 16 and 12. From the New Living Translation. That's why I keep telling brothers, stop having this KJV primacy where we have to keep going back to the KJV because there's errors in the KJV, right? The people that translated even admitted it, right, in the introduction of the KJV. It says, my beloved is dazzling with a dark and healthy complexion. It doesn't say white and ruddy in the International Standard Version. Outstanding among 10,000s, because they found out that just because it says Ammoni doesn't denote red or white or Caucasian. And that's Songs of Solomon 5 verse 10. The Ruddy translation is outdated. Oh, here's more proof. This is why you do not judge people solely on their phenotype. Modern Lebanese have 90% affinity with ancient Canaanites. Now they're saying all the Canaanites are Negro, they're West African. You are a Canaanite because you come from the slave trade. Genesis 9, all this other stuff. But modern Lebanese have 90% affinity with ancient Canaanites. The source is sciencemag.org. Ancient DNA reveals fate of the mysterious Canaanites. Now that Haber had confirmed who the Canaanites were, he set out to find out what happened to them. He compared their genomes to those of 99 living Lebanese people and hundreds of others in genetic databases. Haber found that the present-day Lebanese population is largely descended from ancient Canaanites. Haber found that the present-day Lebanese population is largely descended from ancient Canaanites, inheriting more than 90% of their genes from this ancient source. The other 7% may have come from migrants from Central Europe who moved to the Levant around 3,000 years ago. You're looking at the descendants of Canaanites right here. They look Caucasoid. This is why you can't use phenotype as a sole identifier of people. This is why, because the posterity of Canaan does not look like the original Canaanites. Straight up, but their genome is 90% relative. Now let's get into the West African tribes. You have the Soninke Jews from Aswan of Sonin. The Encyclopedia of African American History, Volume 1, page 104 by Leslie M. Alexander, Walter C. Rucker. Ghana, or as it was called by its inhabitants, Ouagadougou or Ouagadougou around CE 100 by the Soninke, who, according to their tradition, migrated from the city of Sonin and Aswan and Upper Egypt to the region of southeastern Mauritania. Now these Sonin people, right, they come from Sonin or Aswan in Egypt. What's important about that? That's where Asiatics or Jews were known to be in the ancient world. The flight to Egypt. Accounts of Israelites fleeing into Africa. Then all the Israelites, rich and poor alike, together with the army officer, left and went to Egypt because they were afraid of the Babylonians. That's 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 26. And here's Hosea's account. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. So you had Israelites fleeing into Egypt, right? There's many more scriptures. I just used those two to make my point. Judaic. Now we all know about the elephantine papyri, but this is why it's prevalent and relevant to the topic at hand, because we brought up the Soninke people that's in Ouagadougou or Ghana, right? Ancient Ghana, which is in West Africa. The source is centerofjudaicstudies.com. The topic is the Elephantine Temple, 407 BCE. The Elephantine papyri, which include letters, business contracts, and literary texts, document the daily life of a Jewish military colony in southern Egypt. The papyri, written in Aramaic, date to the 5th century BC, when the Persian Empire dominated the ancient Near East. In this particular text, we learn a great deal about the relationship of Jewish community in Elephantine, Yevon Aramaic, with their Egyptian neighbors and Persian rulers. The papyrus contains a letter from Yedaniah ben Gamari, the community's leader, to the Persian governor in Yehud, which is Judah. So we know they were in this area in the vicinity that the Soninke people say they came from. So West Africa, again, we got more proof that the Israelites went into West Africa. The Jews of North Africa, page 4 by Sarah Taib Carlin. According to St. Jerome, under the Pax Romana, the Jewish communities underwent a period of great prosperity all the way from India to the western tip of Africa. The western tip of Africa. You had Jews in Africa. So you can't just say West African equals Canaanite. You have Jews there. You have Israelites there. You have the Soninke people there. According to Josephus, numbered over 500,000 people, the Jews drifted away from Rome and moved closer to the Berbers, which we know the Barbary states extend into West Africa. That's Mauritania and Mali. Eldad the Danite. We're going to bring up Eldad the Danite and his record of what happened to the Danites and several of the northern tribes. This is from the Jewish Quarterly Review, Where Are the 10 Tribes, page 95. In the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, praise be the name of the King of Kings, the Holy One. Blessed be he who has chosen Israel out of the nations, who have given them the law and the commandments, who have separated them from the 70 tongues, for who has ordered them to keep the 613 precepts. So long as Israel fulfilled the will of God, no nation could subdue it, until Jeroboam the son of Nebat rose and sinned and made Israel sin by making 2 golden calves. Then the kingdom of the house of David divided, and Jeroboam gathered the 10 tribes and told them, rise up and make war against Rehoboam and Jerusalem. They, however, answered, why should we fight against our brethren and against the son of our master David, the king of Israel and Judah? The elders of Israel said, there are no more valiant warriors in all the tribes of Israel than in the tribe of Dan. Therefore Jeroboam ordered the children of Dan to make war against Judah. They, however, said, by the life of our father's son, we will not fight against our brethren and shed their blood for nothing. And they gave themselves up to death, took their swords, spears, and bows, in order to make war against Jeroboam. But God saved them from shedding the blood of their brethren, for they proclaimed throughout the whole tribe, saying, fly to Egypt. And they took counsel to destroy Egypt, to kill all its inhabitants. But their princes said to them, how could you go to Egypt? Is it not written in the law, ye shall see them again no more? And that's Exodus 14 and 13. Eldad the Danite the second. Not second. This is part 2 of that. To continue in the Jewish Quarterly Review, Where Are the 10 Tribes, page 96 now. Then they took counsel to fall upon Edom, Amalek, and Ammon. When they heard that it was written in the law of God that had forbidden Israel to possess their territory, Deuteronomy 2 and 9 and 17, finally God gave them good courage and advice to go up to the river Pishon, to continue their wanderings on camels, and to encamp until they reached the land of Cush, Ethiopia, which they found fertile with numerous vineyards and gardens. The Danites settled here, made a covenant with the children of Cush, and they should pay tribute to Israel. Thus the Danites dwelled here for many years, multiplying and increasing greatly. They were then followed by 3 other tribes, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. So this is also bringing in the other northern tribes. All right, back to the article. Who crossed the desert and encamped until they came to the territory of the Danites. In their wanderings they slew many Cushites in a territory extending 4 days' journey in each direction. They have been fighting with 7 kingdoms up to this day. And these 4 tribes, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, those who dwelt in the ancient Havilah, which is West Africa, where there is gold, Genesis 2:11, trusted in the Lord who helped them against the kingdom of these tribes and put their hands on the neck of their enemies. They make war every year with 7 kingdoms and 7 languages. The following are the names, who are on the other side of the river of Cush. Thus the words of the prophet, from beyond the rivers of Cush, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. Zephaniah 3:10 are fulfilled. So he's putting it all in perspective. They went down through Egypt into the land of Cush and went past that river into Western African territory and fought and settled. That's what Havilah is in this passage. The place where gold is. Timbuktu, what are they known for, having all that gold. So let's keep going. Let's deal with the Olmec and the Monday connection, because here's another claim that they put out there, is that the Olmecs are Hamites and they sided with the Spaniards or whatever. It's a convoluted doctrine that's, again, like I've been proving again, full of holes. The source is the megalith, The Black Builders of Stonehenge by Almet von Fleschker. The Olmecs of Mexico are said to be the mother civilization of America, which is facts, according to Clyde. A. Winters and other scholars, they were of the Mende stock. In fact, the Olmecs spoke the Mende language, and the Mende and Bambara strip has been found on ancient Olmec monuments of Mexico. So you have a connection with the Mende people. The Mandinka or Malinke are a West African ethnic group with an estimated global population. Other Mende people include the Soninke. We brought up the Soninke. The Dayula, the Bozo, the Bisa, and the Bambara. And we know about the Jews of Bambara. I covered that in one of my videos. So these Israelite people link with the Olmecs. And you're trying to say they're Canaanites. Get out of here. Now let's deal with Haram. Haram was of Israel. According to Josephus, The Antiquities of Jews, Book 8, Chapter 2. It says, Now Solomon sent for an artificer out of Tyre, whose name was Haram. He was by birth of the tribe of Naphtali, and on the mother's side, for she was of that tribe. But his father was of the stock of the Israelites. This man was skillful in all sorts of work, but his chief skill was working in gold and silver and brass, by whom were made all the mechanical works about the temple according to the will of Solomon. So Haram was an Israelite according to Josephus. He didn't teach that he was Canaan. That has been debunked. Let's keep going. Mexico's involvement in the slave trade, 1542 and 1650. Because they say, oh, the Phoenicians came into these lands, but guess what? The Phoenicians or those Tyrians were not all Zidonians. You had a lot of them that were Israelites, like King Haram. But anyway, let's deal with this. It's a Recovering History and Constructing Race by Martha Menchaca. It says, estimates of the number of black slaves introduced to Mexico range from 150,000 to 200,000. Spanish preferred to import Malinke slaves. These are Mende people. So the Mende people were there before, the Olmecs, right? These Israelites, and they came later in slavery. The ways of men are not of men, but of the Lord. It seems like he's uniting these tribes in the last days. That's just my perspective. The Olmecs reunited with their other Israelite brothers. Did the tribes go to their prospective tribes in America? Men's goings are the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? That's Proverbs chapter 20, verse 24. So this is the final slide. We're going to leave it here. Again, this whole presentation was to just smack their doctrine in the face and just destroy it completely and uproot it, which I believe we did that. And if you agree and you're in agreement with with this presentation, leave it in the comments below. But anyway, last and final slide, color. Because these guys are saying, oh, the Jews are not this, they're white, they're Caucasian, blue-eyed, all this other stuff. The same rhetoric we heard from the Mormons, we hear from Rabbi Asher and his cohorts, right? Vocab, James White and their cohorts. We hear it. We've been hearing it. But let's deal with it. Color. The source is Shakespeare and the Jews, page 170 by James Shapiro. It says, I knew you to be a Jew, for you Jews have a peculiar color of face, different from the form and figure of other men, which thing have often filled me with admiration, for you are black and uncomely, and not white as other men. For you are black and uncomely, and not white as other men. The Jews were known to be black. In the 1600s, Paul Isaiah is the source. So with that, I'm going to end it. You know, it's Genesis 49ers. We say no to those that go contra, man. Y'all know the slogan. We say no to vague interpretations, and we get thorough breakdowns. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Support, support, support. There will be more videos and more content. I've loaded this channel with nothing but content. Go back and watch my prior videos, take notes, learn the material, add to it. The scripture says a wise man adds to a sentence. So, with no further ado, Genesis 49ers signing off.